Hello, and welcome to another episode of Hi, I'm Jason, with Jason Pollock. I am not Jason. Join Jason and Justin back in the green room as they talk with some of their favorite folks from the entertainment industry. And now, the man you haven't been waiting for, Jason Pollock!
Hi, I still hate that close-up of me. I'm so sorry to everybody who had to witness that. Once again, I'm without Justin because he's got these darn live shows he's doing. He's just that talented, and people want to pay him to work. Well, listen, I'm very excited about this guest today. We're actually old high school mates, but she did something so freaking brave that I was blown away. She wrote a book about her time in the Peace Corps called The Color of the Elephant. Please give it up for Christine Herbert.
Thank
That's
you.
a studio audience.
I
Thank
love
you for
it.
that.
I love that we have a studio audience.
Yes. Did you enjoy your virtual pizza back there? In the
Yeah,
virtual
it was
green
great
room?
in the virtual green room. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Chris, you haven't aged a day. I mean,
Nah, we're friends, and it's true. It's true. You've proved it. Your friendship of all these decades. Yeah.
right? It's so good to see you, Chris. I'm kind of we've had a lot of we've had celebrities on the show, but
Mhm.
after reading your book and knowing you, I'm a little starstruck.
Aw.
After hearing that character, especially you messaging me saying you're a little nervous with the questions. I was like, "There's the neurotic girl from the book."
Yeah, mildly terrified, I think is how I was putting it. Yeah, absolutely. Because, I love people. I love connecting with people, but I'm also an introvert. So, I have this terror of human interaction.
I get that. I totally get it. I'm an extroverted introvert. I'm trying to get myself out there, but the pandemic was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, wait, I don't have to leave my house. I could still get paid. And I was like worried that it was going to end too soon.
Yeah.
Thank God for the anti-vaxxers.
There was a part of me that loved it. I won't deny it. It was like staying home from school,
Right.
Oh, Mom, I got a tummy ache. Not really, but enough that I can just complain about it. And then I have a day off and you're like, nobody expects anything of me for hours.
It's bliss.
It was great. So that was okay for the first few weeks of hiding in my house for the pandemic. And then as the months went on, because my job involves touching people, so I can't do it remotely. So as those months wore on,
that's a whole other story.
It was yeah. So even I, who's a champion introvert, was definitely feeling the feels after 3 months, of isolation.
Right.
But now things are getting back to normal. Yeah.
And yeah, they are. No, I'm happy they are. But okay, to your book, The Color of the Elephant.
Yes.
I want to know, well, first of all, why the title?
So the title, it actually refers to a line in the book. Has nothing to do with elephants. Sorry to disappoint. It is vaguely African sounding, which worked for me, it being a book about living in Africa. But it's referring to this line in the book where I'm talking about race as kind of like the elephant in the room. And I wondered if when I went to Africa, people would kind of dance around the fact that I was white, not want to bring it up because they didn't want to be impolite by talking about race or, talking about me being different in some way. And that was not the case at all. Like every conversation, several times a day, people were just pointing out the fact that I was white. And usually in kind of a good way, or like, aren't we lucky to have,
you're a Mzungu.
Yeah, the Mzungu here. But it was always pointed out to me, like I couldn't forget it if I tried, I was always pointed out how different I was from everyone. And I thought, well, maybe it's just like, instead of the elephant in the room, it depends on the color of the elephant here. It's like dance around it. Yeah.
Right. It's like The Gods Must Be Crazy, that movie where in Africa. The tribe found a Coke can or a Coke bottle. I don't remember. And they were like, "Oh
It's a
my
Coke
God, this
bottle.
must be from the gods." Yes, it was a Coke bottle. Yeah.
I
So,
remember that movie vividly. Yeah.
me too. I just that moments just resonated with me. And you, especially for an introvert to do what you did. I mean, 2 years is a really long time.
Yeah. 2 years, 3 months, even. Yeah. So when you
So
go, your first 3 months, you're living with a family. They're instructed not to speak English to you. You're learning your job. You're learning a new language, like 8 hours a day.
was it
Language,
Bemba? Is
language,
that what it was?
language. So for me, it was Bemba. And then you go to your site by yourself for 2 years. And you see other volunteers, usually just once a quarter. So 4 times a year, you travel out and you meet with other people and you have your meetings and whatever. And then you're back to your site. You're very isolated. So they had me learning Bemba. And you got to understand, there are 73 languages in Zambia. So they just, give you the major ones in the areas where they know that they're going to have sites set up for volunteers. I get to my site. I go on my site visit. It's about a week before I'm supposed to live there. And I don't understand what people are saying. Not even the greetings. I'm like, this is not what I've been learning for the past 3 months. I go there and they speak Lamba. And I was like, oh, well, this is just great. It turned out that it was about, like 70%.
I was going to say they've got to be somewhat similar.
They were somewhat similar, but it was a panic attack moment when.
Is it almost like a dialect change?
Yes, it's a dialect change. Yeah. It's
all right.
A dialect of Bemba, or they're all Bantu languages. So they're all very similar. But your names for everyday objects and even how you would greet one another, like the word for you or a respect word for you would be totally different. They all have their own words. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But you managed to master it or get close.
I wouldn't say I mastered it.
Okay. Well,
but I definitely, had enough to get by,
right.
Spoke it every day, and I had to barter for things. And,
the fact that you survived 2 years there, in the beginning of the book, you were talking about some of the hazards, like, or some of the little things. Wait, I'm going to talk about the hazards first. The roadblocks seem very intimidating. And I love the way you called the illegal roadblocks entrepreneurial.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something I had never encountered before, where there would be across any road, major roads, and I use the word major lightly. Sometimes they're just dirt roads, but they travel a long ways in other provinces. They'd have these roadblocks set up, and sometimes they'd be official roadblock guys, and sometimes they would be the unofficial roadblock guys that they're just
let's
just set up a roadblock and carry AK-47s and just ask people for money for whatever it was, just so that they could pass the road. By the way, I learned later, like you'd see like machine guns a lot. I'm like,
I believe
up with
that.
These AKs? And after a while, somebody said to me, like, don't even worry about that. That's just for show. They can't afford bullets. Like they're not armed.
That's amazing.
Like, oh, okay. So I let it not panic me.
So you were like, oh, can I hold one?
Yeah. No.
It's not loaded, right?
No. But it gave me a kind of a different perspective on guns, because it felt incredibly alarming for me to see that, to see these guns. And yet people would say to me in Zambia, like, I couldn't ever live in America. I couldn't go to America. There's too much violence. There's too much guns, too many guns. Because what they see are all these movies and shows, and they're all action-y, and everyone's guns blazing.
That's what I thought when I read about your roadblocks. I was like, oh my God, Hotel Rwanda. It's awesome. Last King of Scotland. All the movies I've seen about Africa are coming back to me in my head. Like, oh my God, but she survived. That's why I was like, you're so brave. Well, not only that, but walking through the woods at night alone. Mm-hmm. Now, in Africa, in the jungles of Africa, you're like, yeah, and whatever. So there's a black mamba. I played in its skin. Yeah.
I did, actually. That was a little weird. I did play in a black mamba skin. I think about that. I'm like, was that really my life? Because I didn't think it's that interesting. But then people read my book and they're like, this is amazing. I'm like, really?
It is.
It's like
oh my
life.
God, the things you've done. I remember the one time I had to walk through the woods alone, and it was in Maine. And I blame you for that, Chris, because we were hanging out in Bar Harbor. You drove me
Oh,
back to the campground. You didn't want to go all the way in, so you dropped me off at the entrance of the campground. So I had to
huh.
walk back a mile to the campsite.
Oh,
And
I don't remember this at
I don't think, I
all.
think you didn't want to get lost at night. There were no street lights. So
Oh, maybe.
yeah, it's all right. You're like, I'll drop you off here. It was nice of you, enough of you to drop me off to the campsite. But I'm walking by myself. I hear noises, and I'm singing. Sometimes I feel I've got to run away, and until I hear, "Shut up, Jason!" Finally, I found my tent.
Yeah, it's always kind of harrowing, but sort of thrilling, to just walk around in the woods by yourself, especially
Yeah,
at night, right? I don't know. Some people like to watch horror movies, but get that thrill. And some of
yeah,
us,
I'm one of them.
like to like to actually be out there in nature. I don't know. I got
So
used to it in Zambia, just walking
I
around
noticed that from reading the
in the
book.
dark.
You're totally used to it.
Yeah.
And it was almost second nature to you after a while, wasn't it? Going to the bathroom at night in the dark.
Yeah, you kind of have to. You have to go outside, and in Zambia, almost nobody's in their house. I was accused a lot of like hiding in my house, because in America, when you're home, you're in your home. But
Yeah.
there, you're outside somewhere, maybe under a tree if it's real sunny or whatever. But you're just outside. You go in your house to sleep. You don't hang out in there. So I got used to being outside a lot, and of
So
course, there's no
they're not
street
as
lights out
livable,
there.
right?
You're in the dark a lot. So what was
But
that?
that's why they have the fires and the dancing.
Yeah.
Was that an every night occurrence?
No.
Okay.
I certainly had experienced that on a couple of occasions, but that was really kind of remarkable when I first got there. And I'm doing a site visit for the first time, and we're eating in the middle of the night on a neighbor's, front lawn being, not really what it was. It was just a dirt yard. You don't really have a lawn there.
Right, right.
So we're sitting on the ground, we're eating. It's middle of the night where I can't see my food. I'm like, is this what people do? They just sit around at night and there's no lights and you're eating in the pitch dark. I guess so.
So you wouldn't
And
say anything. It's a different culture. You're not going to say, sorry, I don't eat after 7.
you just get used to it. And I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to learn to eat in the dark. I can't see my food. Okay, that's fine. And then we hear drumming in the distance and I'm going, ooh, I really feel like I'm in Africa. What's going on? And
It's like out of a
so,
movie.
yeah, it was like out of a movie, right? And so I had asked the volunteer I was like, what's going on? She says, there must be dancing tonight. And sure enough, after we ate, we went through the woods and found them, and there were, fires, and there was dancing and their costumes, and I was just fascinated. I was like, oh wow,
That is so cool.
what an incredible cultural experience. And it totally was, but it was kind of unusual, at least for, where I lived. It wasn't like that. There wouldn't just be drumming in the night and you were like, ooh, there must be some ritual dancing. And, we'll let's all go to the dancing. They were usually more planned events, but yeah, that really happened.
That's just, I'm just in awe. I keep harping on that, but it was so amazing. Now I'm jumping all over the place because I was just so excited by your book and to talk to you about it. But let's start at the beginning.
Mhm.
What is it about the Peace Corps that really? I know I read it in the book, but I wanted you to explain it. Like, what is it about the Peace Corps that drew you to it? I loved your explanation for it in the book.
I'm trying to remember what I wrote in the book. I'm like, what was it about the Peace Corps?
Well, let's see if it's the same. It's a
What's
test.
that? It's a
test.
test?
We're going to see
Oh
if it's the
gosh.
same.
So, I mean, I remember being drawn to the Peace Corps from a very young age, in the 70s and early 80s, there'd be these commercials where there would be these people, in these third world countries, and they're planting corn and they're digging
Yes, I
ditches and
remember those.
wells and whatever, and they're very dramatic, right? Really dramatic, showing things that you normally wouldn't see in America. And then it says, Peace Corps, the toughest job you'll ever love. was their tagline. And I would watch that and I'd be like, wow, would I ever have the courage to do this? And I'm little, I'm like, under 10, and I'm watching this. I'm like, wow, really? People can do that? Could I do that? And they showed men and women doing it, and I would think about it as a kid. So the seed was always there, that I would like to do it. And I always, for whatever reason, wanted to go to Africa. I watched a lot of National Geographic as a kid. My sister will tell you, because it bored her to death. She always wanted to watch something else. I want to watch National Geographic.
You love to learn.
Maybe. And I just love the animals, and there's something about the place that always fascinated me. So when I was turning 30, I was kind of like hitting this point of like, oh, what are the things I wanted to do someday before I run out of someday? Like, I've got a moment now, I can take a break from what I'm doing. Just renting. I don't have any pets. I don't have a boyfriend. I can pick up and go. What do I want to do? And then that's when I knew. I was like, this is the time to see if I can get in the Peace Corps. And that's what I did, and asked for an assignment in Africa, and I was lucky enough to get it. So
it's so brave. But I loved your vulnerability that you talked about in the book, where you were just, you were heaving fetal position.
We're going back to the way beginning. Yeah, I did not. Yes. It was not an auspicious start, let's say. I mean, they pump you full of so many vaccinations and stuff, and you think you've been the human pincushion before you're about to get on that plane, but then once you're about to go, they're like, "Oh no, there's more." And they're just giving you, trying to inoculate you against everything. And I had like a bad reaction, and I've been like dry heaving for like an entire day. It was terrible. And so when I got there, as soon as like the plane started going down and I saw it, and I saw Zambia, I felt like
the adrenaline came through.
Yeah. I guess so. Must have been the adrenaline. I started feeling amazing. I was like, oh my God, I'm finally here. Of course, I couldn't stop crying.
Vegas for the first time. Yes.
So yeah, that was my first sight of Africa.
And you really did show a vulnerable, very human side in the book, which is, you weren't very go me. You were just like, I threatened to kill a bus driver, a bus clerk.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
This would make such a great independent film with a big budget. It'd have to be on location. But I was like, oh my God. Who would you want to play you? Reese Witherspoon, somebody like that, I could say.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know who would play me.
Good question.
Who can laugh at themselves enough? My sister would think Drew Barrymore. She once had a dream that they did make a movie about my life there, and that Drew Barrymore starred as me.
I think you could do better. I do. The 90s, I would have said Uma Thurman, a young Uma Thurman years ago.
Yeah, we're not that, different in age, but yeah, we'd have to go younger, because this is supposed to be 30-year-old me. So
yeah, you were inspired in 2004.
I went in 2004. Yeah,
just proving I read the book.
Good job. There was a test later, but I might waive it.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. I gotta tell you, I forget the word now. There's one word in the book that I was like, if I was doing a drink, I can't pronounce it. Satang.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I got it right. Yeah. If I did a shot every time that word was mentioned, I would be dead of alcohol poisoning.
It's a new drinking game. I can suggest. I got to take it a chapter at a time, though. You don't want to pass out before the end.
No. When you mentioned, I asked you if you wanted to do a reading, and I thought, then you asked me if there was a section that I would like you to read. It would have been great. It didn't occur to me until afterwards. It's the story about the guy their canoe was capsized by a hippo. Then he was chased by a crocodile.
Oh, that's a good story.
Or his arm was beat off. Oh, wow.
Would you? What are you saying? What kind of book is this?
His arm was bit off. That's a Freudian slip if I ever heard. Bit off by a crocodile, and Oh, Gary Allen popped in and said he's enjoying the show. Thank you, Gary.
Excellent. So this story, I could paraphrase it for you.
Yes, paraphrase.
If you don't want me to read it word for
And
word.
the father you stayed with told you the story, right?
Yeah. So there was a guy, it was just there was a family nearby that had been helping me and built an addition onto my hut. And so I went to visit him for like a couple of days, and he told me this story. We are, by the way, wading through crocodile infested waters. Is it in the Kifue River, I think, and our boat died, and so we had to go to the side, but we're hauling it back. We're trying to get it back to his farm. So he's telling me this story to like entertain me or something about this farmer.
Flatties, right? Is that what they call the crocodile? Flatties?
Oh, the flatties, the flat dogs. Yeah, they affectionately refer to them as flat dogs. So we're coming up on this guy's farm, and he's like, the guy that lives here, and he has the story to tell. So he and his family are boating. The boat gets capsized by hippos, which are more dangerous. Anyone will tell you they're more dangerous than the flat dogs. They're not out to eat you. They're just huge and weigh a lot and can capsize your boat and trample you. And they're
the most dangerous animal in the world.
They are the most dangerous animal. So the hippos come along. His whole family's in the river, whatever. They get up and they find a tiny spit of land in the middle, and they're safe-ish, but they're waiting for rescue. So the guy goes out and he says, I want to rescue my family. So he swims out to shore and then gets snapped on by a flatty. So this crocodile takes his arm, makes off with his arm. The guy's still somehow alive. I don't know, tourniquets.
And you see it like bobbing in the
So he looks back. What's happened? There's his own arm waving to him out of the arm of the crocodile. So he's still thinking, I got to save my family. Hauls himself on the shore, starts walking, trying to find help. Well, then he comes across this water buffalo who is enraged for some reason, seeing this person with one arm bleeding on whatever his patch of land. So chases him around, chases him up a tree. The guy gets up out of the tree with one arm. I don't know how, hangs on. Won't get down because this water buffalo is going like crazy, just stomping around this tree and stomping around the tree. And then after a while, because it can always get worse, he might be thinking to himself, it could be worse. Then there's this lion that comes up and is, looking at them, and he could see it and hear it. And it was just waiting to go, it was itching to have a go at the rest of the guy. And it doesn't approach more because it's got that water buffalo running around the tree. Well, this goes on like all through the night. The guy's thinking, he's gone. He's a goner. But that lion still stays where it is, and the water buffalo stays where it is until the morning, and somebody finds his family in that spit of land in the Kifue or whichever river it was. Got them. They go to find the guy, and he's still alive, and they haul him out of the tree, and he lived to tell the tale. So
that's unbelievable. And what a great story to tell you while you're wading through crocodile-infested waters to ease your nerves.
Yeah, that's what I told him. I was like, can this story wait until we're out of the waters that I'm in, that I know crocodiles are in? Can we? Yeah.
But, there was something about that whole experience that I related with, is that when you're stressed, what better way to ease the tension than Neil Diamond?
Like,
and then she listened to Neil Diamond.
Come to our rescue.
That's one. Not literally. For those of you reading, don't expect to read Neil Diamond's rescue of The Color of the Elephant.
Well, I didn't write about it, but that could be in the next book. You don't know. I didn't write about everything that happened to me.
Wow, Neil Diamond, the superhero. That's what the world has been missing all this time, and you're going to create it.
That is it. My next book will be loosely based on truth.
How Neil Diamond saved my life. The Christine Herbert story.
Yeah, that's the next book. I like that title. I'll give you credit for that one.
Thank you so much.
Make a note of that.
Okay. You were really, for having written this years afterwards. Wait, I got to ask you, how long did it take you to write this book?
So it took me really start to finish for that first draft that I started marketing, 5 years. I'm
I was
a
gonna say it's
turtle
very
writer.
detailed. Well,
Yeah,
no, I mean, it was perfect.
I just took my sweet time with it. And then, but part of that, like a year and a half of that was me, like, I got a job in Kathmandu. I don't think I ever told you this. So I moved to Nepal. And then I lived there for, off and on for a year. I had that job. And I could not write about Africa when I was living in Nepal and I was trying to learn Nepali. And I was, it was like learning a new language and new culture. And I was so bombarded with like cultural changes. I'm like, I'm going to lose my mind if I keep going back to Africa. So I had to put on the shelf. I had to shelve it for a while. But then I came back to it. And about 5 years
What kind of
later.
job did you get in Kathmandu?
So I was working for a nonprofit organization, educational foundation, and it was called Himalayan Healers. And I had gone back to being a body worker again after Peace Corps. And so this was a massage school, a bodywork school,
Oh, so you
and
kind of worked in a
chain of
spa.
spas. I worked in a spa.
That's
So
what you do now, right?
I went back to doing it. Yeah. So I did it for off and on for like 10 years. And then for 10 years did other things, mostly nonprofit. And then I really missed it. And I came back to doing it, I think 3 years now. So
I know
yeah, I've
people
been
who
back
do
to doing
that
massage.
and love it, and it seems like a fun way of life, but there's just people I don't want to touch, and then I have to discriminate. I
It's
remember
a very weird job, I got to say right now. And I love it. I do love it. And part of what I love about it is all different kinds of people. And I'm not afraid to work on anybody for any reason. I really like it. But it is weird. Like I will admit, it is a weird job.
yeah,
Not everybody could do it. Yeah.
and I'm one of those people who can't do it.
People are like, what about people that are hairy? What about people that smell? But it just doesn't. I don't know. People are people.
You get
It just
used
doesn't
to it.
bother
Like
me.
it's
You
like a
do
nurse
get
who
used to it.
sees all kinds of horrible things.
Yeah.
You become
Yeah.
numb to it.
Yeah, it's so much weirder and grosser to be like a nurse, and that's a normal thing. So it's I deal with a lot less than they have to deal with.
And you've seen people pick their nose like it's no big deal now. Like
That
you've
too.
seen it all in Africa. That's another reference to the book for those of you wondering.
Thank you for those little pearls. It pique people's interests and be like, what? But yeah, there's all sorts of amazing cultural things that happen.
There
And I
is.
feel like
It's nonstop throughout the whole book, and it sounds like you had this life epiphany, like when you're watching the fire come towards your house. I don't want to give away everything. Like, I'm going to ruin the whole
I
book.
like these little cliffhangers, though. You used to like when this wildfire was roaring towards
You're
your
going to have
house.
to read this book, The Color of the Elephant, the memoir of a Mzungu.
Mzungu, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is just kind of a typical way of referring to white people in Africa. Not every language will use that, or they have similar ones. Swahili is almost the same. It's Mzungu, but it's like Mzungu. They spell it a little differently, but in a lot of places that will just be called Mzungus. Yeah.
I have to ask you, what was the? I don't know if you put it in the book, but do you have an experience that was like one of the scariest experiences you've had there? Something that you thought, oh my God, I'm not going to survive this?
Probably every time I had malaria. I'm trying to think if there's any other specific.
Every time. I've never heard that sentence before.
I ended up somehow squeezing it in 3 times during my 27 months. So it was like once a year I kept getting it. And it didn't matter that I took all the meds.
Vaccine for malaria.
What's that?
There are no vaccines for malaria, I take it.
There is no vaccine. They have something that they give you, which is meant to be a prophylaxis against it, meaning it gives you a certain amount of protection in your bloodstream. But if you have too much of the parasite, it's going to overwhelm those meds and you're going to get it anyway. You'll just get a milder case than if you had not been taking it.
I got to tell you, you might be the first person I ever met who had malaria.
Yeah, it's not usual, mostly because in this part of the world, we took care of that problem by bombing all these areas that had those types of mosquitoes with DDT. And so, we've got all sorts of problems because of that, but malaria isn't one of them. We got 99 problems, but we don't got malaria. But yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, not everybody has the right kinds of mosquitoes that will carry the parasite. There are just certain varieties that will.
Well, thank God for DDT is what I always say, right?
Always. We
We
always
love
say that.
Monsanto. I'm going to give you a "We Love Monsanto" shirt.
Yeah. I can't even say that in jest. I can't. Oh,
That was painful. It was really difficult.
that was a hard joke.
My wife would divorce me if she heard me say that.
The sacrifices we make in order to have that comedy work, it's a tough
So
one.
true.
You went there though.
I'm canceled in my marriage. Gary's still enjoying the show. Gary said, "Where's Tarzan when you need help? When you need him? When you need help?"
I don't know. He never came to my rescue either.
Unbelievable.
I know. Jerk.
I know. So, all right. You got me thinking about everything. I can't even get my words out.
It's okay.
Hi,
Take
Jason.
your time.
Hello, Christine. Leave another comment. Okay. When I went to Israel, I was there for 2 weeks. And I thought, all right, I've had enough. I need to be Americanized again. I loved at the end of your book. I don't want to give away too much now.
Well, we gave away the beginning and the middle. Let's give away the end. It's all good. Do it.
There's so much more. There's so much more to it. But the pizza, the love, you're like, you couldn't eat enough pizza. And I was like,
re-Americanize myself. Yeah.
You know how Americanized I am? I just said I was like, you were like, I'm using like too much, and it's upsetting me as I'm talking to you. I hear it coming out of my mouth, and it's very upsetting. And we have someone else just tuned in. We're talking to Christine Herbert, who wrote The Color of the Elephant, Memoirs of a Mzungu, who wrote about her experiences of being in the Peace Corps in Zambia. Something we can all relate with.
I wish I could relate with people a little bit more on this point. It's hard to find a fellow Peace Corps volunteer, let alone somebody who's served in Africa, let alone Zambia.
I pictured white guys with dreadlocks.
No, one guy in my whole time there would have fit that description.
All right, that's good. That's good.
And he with me. He was a volunteer, so.
So they were tolerable.
The people were tolerable.
Oh, no, your Peace Corps, your fellow Peace Corps volunteers.
They were lovely.
All right, that's good.
Yeah, they were lovely people. Yeah, and we've kept in touch, really. Yeah, it's a formative experience, and we all shared it together. It really does bind you together.
That is wonderful.
Yeah,
you really made me like look at things in a whole new perspective. I mean, you take for granted the little things like having chairs and having like the whole thing. We're going to eat in the dark. Well, no, there's good moonlight tonight. You never think about these things outside of, we're so accustomed to living in this first world problem.
Yeah. And I had no idea. I knew I was going to live in a mud hut in Zambia. I was like, woo. And there are very few places that still do this, by the way. Zambia is like maybe the only, really old school Peace Corps environment where you do live in a mud hut and no electricity and no running water.
So in other words, they could have it, but they choose to still live. They're like the Amish of Africa. They're like,
you live in the standard of living, the basic standard of living of the country that you are assigned to. And most places have a higher, not standard of living, but just like a way that people are living there. So if you're in a place where people usually live in apartments and have electricity, and, maybe not have a car, but like a motorbike or something like that, that's what you get as a volunteer to live there. They set you up with an apartment and it has electricity and you've got a motorbike to get around. Where I lived, it was more typical to live in a grass hut, no electricity, no running water. And if anything, you have a bicycle. So I had a bicycle. So I had to use that to get around for a couple of years. Yeah. So you're just in, whatever the standard of living is, that's what they give you.
That's great.
Yeah. And I was so lucky to get it. I mean, I just loved it. I got so used to living without, electricity and just modern conveniences.
It
I just
really
really
must have been
loved
a
it.
culture shock to leave there. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't even imagine after 2 years of living that way.
Hmm. I almost couldn't leave the bathroom. I would spend hours in there, and just I was just hanging out and having a
Just watching the
shower.
flush. Look at
Yeah,
that. Look at the
you can
water go
flush
down.
that. Look at it goes down in a circle. And just turn the off and on the water. Woo! It's so clean in there. It's got tile, and you can take a bath, you can take a shower, you can do one then the other, and it's just
That's so
fascinating.
exciting to have running water.
You could not get me out of that bathroom. I just loved it. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good for you. What was before we start to wrap up? I want to ask you what you think the most rewarding part for you was, like the most memorable, touching experience that would.
So that's hard, drawing on 2 years of incredible experiences. For me, the most rewarding part, the most fulfilling part was being accepted in my community. Just creating those
Oh,
friendships with the
sure.
kids, friendships with my neighbors, friendships with my coworkers at the health clinic, and being invited to be at their house and sit around their fires and share stories with their families, and even eat weird thing, eat beetles, that here, this is what we're having for dinner.
I
Okay.
was going to
Fear
ask you about that.
factor.
You did eat beetles.
Fantastic. I
Oh,
absolutely, I
wow.
eat every insect. Yeah, absolutely. There were very few sources of protein. So, if they were eating caterpillars, you ate caterpillars that night. That's how it went. So I love those moments. I just love them,
I
you
get
know.
that. I really get that. That's perfect. And Gary's asking, how are you different now from your first Peace Corps assignment?
Yeah, that would be hard to say from the outside. On the inside, I felt like my inner landscape felt very different. And one of the things that I learned um, was that, I don't know, I learned to not take things for granted, and and to appreciate my choices. One thing I learned was having too many choices here can spoil a person. It spoils your
Yeah.
happiness. It spoils your happiness because you can do almost anything, and you don't have that anticipatory feeling like, oh, we're gonna, be able to eat this. We're gonna be able to go here. Like, you can do anything. And when you live in a society that doesn't have choices, um, you're actually happier. It sounds weird. It sounds like, why would you not want to have choices about, your life and what you can do in it? But actually, you're
It gives you
somehow,
appreciation.
you appreciate what you have, and you think about the things you'd like to, if only I could go here or eat this or get this, it somehow makes you happier, makes you appreciate what you have, and it gives you the opportunity to just dream about other things that you can't have. You just can't have them. Maybe not ever, but maybe just not right now. In America, you can have almost anything, anytime, whatever you want. And when I came back, I felt so disappointed. And I didn't know what to do
Well,
with myself. I didn't know what to do because I could do anything. And it was,
I just picture looking around at your world in America and just seeing a lot of arrogance
mm,
amongst people who don't appreciate um, those little perks little nuances that you picked up on in Africa, if that makes sense.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely like a different mindset of appreciation and humility.
Yes.
Yes, you come back home and it's like everyone's so arrogant, and you're like, wow.
Picturing going into a Starbucks and I watched a documentary on Ethiopia, the Ethiopian coffee industry, and how they're picking through every little bean, and it's just the economy sustains the whole country pretty much. The coffee. I can't even get my words out. The coffee. I haven't had a drink in a month. Okay, this is why I look so good, but I'm not talking so coherently. The coffee industry sustains the whole economy of the country. And they're showing how difficult the job is and how hard these people are working. And then they showed a barista competition in Seattle, and it was just like it was such a culture shock. See what they go through.
Yeah, it's a totally different situation. And even in America, right? Like people are there, they get their coffee. Somebody spells their name wrong on the cup, and it's just like, oh, I can't believe they spelled my name like this. And they put it on Instagram and they start, ranting. Oh my God, I can't believe so and so thinks this is how my name was spelled. Can you even believe it? And it's like that kind of thing where I'm like, wow, was I
First world
ever
problem.
like that?
Yeah.
That's a first world. It's not even just a problem. It's like making problems just so you can have
Yeah.
something to complain about. And it's so strange. So that's a real cultural shift, for me. That's what happened in my mind. I think, I don't know if I was ever that bad before Peace Corps, but I don't think I'm ever going to get to that,
No, I
that
don't.
level.
From what I remember, you were never that person, which is good.
Thanks.
Your name's Chrissy, not Karen.
Yeah. True.
And let's see, was there something else I had to ask you?
I don't know.
I
Feel
know.
free. Dig deep. Ask the hard questions.
That's the hard question. It was on the tip of my tongue. No, it wasn't that. But anyway, is this self-published?
It is not. So it is published by a small indie press called Gen Z Publishing. And believe it or not, they are actually in New Jersey. So they're based out of Aberdeen, New Jersey. So I kind of felt like, kind of connecting with my roots here. All right,
Yeah.
New Jersey. Way
It's
to go.
come full circle.
Yeah.
New Jersey
Didn't see
has
that
helped me
coming.
publish this book.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful book. If anyone wants to read it, and I highly recommend it because it will be a movie one day once I win the lottery and can fund this. The Color of the Elephant, Memoirs of a Muzungu, with my old friend, Christine Herbert. Christine, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's been so fun. It's been wonderful to connect with you again.
Absolutely. Yeah, reach out anytime. And
Thank you.
next time you do the Peace Corps, let me know. And I'm
waiting for what you'll do.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
This is fascinating. What will you do?
Yeah, I'm still in shock about how you dealt with. I would have said I'm going home as soon as they said watch out for snakes when you're walking in the path. That would have been it for me. And you stayed and got used to it like a freaking trooper that you are. I had I had 3 different bats in my house since we moved in 2018, and we found out where they were coming from. But each time I had to call somebody and make a makeshift I wouldn't go near it because first of all, I'm Jewish. We don't do that kind of stuff. I knew one, I don't even fix it. We knew one Jewish carpenter. Didn't work out too well for him. It's terrible. I'm so sorry. And you're dealing with giant bats and snakes and lions and tigers, and I don't think there were tigers out there. But
no, but but I appreciate the drama of the statement.
Of course.
I was on tenterhooks. I'm like, what did I battle next? What else was there?
I think you were the goodwill ambassador at the bus station. That was, I think, one of my favorite parts of the story. I was reading this like, oh my God, she's telling the truth. This is really Chris threatening to kill.
Because no one would say these things about themselves unless they were true, right? Because there's so many times. It's like my 1001 meltdowns, essentially. It is not a story about, me going to Africa and doing all these good works. And I just don't talk about them. Like, that's not a story to me. People who talk about their work are really boring. And I think talking about my work is kind of boring. I put a little list at the end of things I actually accomplished, but I didn't talk about my day-to-day successes. I talked about my failures, and just my total meltdowns.
It humanized the whole thing. You humanized it, made it relatable, made it really easy to read with that in that respect.
Yeah, I think it's number one, funny, and I wanted people to laugh, and I wanted to be able to laugh at myself, but also it's just relatable. Everybody's had a meltdown,
Absolutely.
And I think it just, you can see yourself in that position and say, okay, well, she's sort of a hot mess and she did it, so maybe I could do it too,
That is totally the impression I got from it. And Chris, it's seriously, thank you for writing this because I loved the book. I will recommend this to freaking everybody because it's wonderful.
I'm excited to have frigging everybody read it. Yay.
I was sounding too much like an NPR guy, so I just throw the word freaking in there.
I like
They,
it.
they don't do that on NPR. They leave out the freaking word. Well, thank you again, and
Thank you.
be sure to pick up this book. And I'm not talking to you, Chris. I'm talking to the people watching. Be sure to pick up the book. And thank you very much, and thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thank
Chris,
you.
hang out for just a second.